I've got another affordable Citizen here, and once again I'm borrowing this from my dad. He's going through a bit of a phase right now, and I'm not going to stand in his way. There are worse phases, especially ones that don't benefit me as much, and by me I mean you, of course, the audience. Now, Citizen USA has been very cool about loaning me watches for videos. It's just that this one literally showed up at my door, and I stole it off a wrist so I can make this video, again, for you, always and forever. This is part of the new Zenshin collection. The collection was briefly called Forza, just in case you were as confused as I perpetually am. Zenshin means something like a high state of awareness, but a relaxed state of total awareness. Lying in bed at 3 a.m. and worrying about your credit card statement after a big watch purchase? I'm pretty sure that's Zenshin. Relaxed in body, but still highly alert. And so that's the nickname that Citizen gave these watches, that includes 2 solar-powered quartz watches and 1 mechanical. The mechanical one is the watch with the seconds hand at 4:30, which someone thought was a good idea, and I'll let you decide if you agree with them on that. All Zenshin watches have integrated bracelets and use Citizen's proprietary super titanium alloy. That's the big differentiator between the Zenshin watches and the Tsuyosa, which is Citizen's other new integrated bracelet watches. The Tsuyosa watches use steel, not titanium, at least for now. I have a video on the Tsuyosa watches, it's linked below. Good looking watches with a lot of dial options, even more dial options than when I made this video. And both the Tsuyosa and the Zenshin, especially the mechanical Zenshin watches, are more examples of Citizen targeting watch collectors or watch enthusiasts or whatever non-derogatory term we want to call ourselves. But of course, what I have here is not a mechanical watch. This is a light-powered quartz watch, an eco-drive watch. That's Citizen's name for its photovoltaic movement. It's got the prefix eco, so you know it's good. And even with all the mechanical watches that Citizen has made and is making, even owning Miyota, which makes all of those mechanical movements, even then, I still think the best thing Citizen does is its eco-drive watches like this. But it's easy for me and a lot of watch nerds to get completely caught up in mechanical watches, and for good reason. Mechanical watches are kind of amazing and historical, and you can actually look at a mechanical movement and kinda understand how it works. But there ain't nothing like the accuracy and the durability and the scalability and the functionality of a quartz watch. And that's just the standard battery-powered quartz watch. These light-powered quartz watches are just, if you could go back in time and show Abraham Louis Breguet, maybe one of the most famous watchmakers ever, if you could show him an eco-drive watch, first, he'd be amazed that you have most of your original teeth, and then he'd wonder why anyone in the future would want to own a watch that wasn't photovoltaic quartz. Abe, all I can tell you is that the human brain is an interesting contraption, and this watch is pretty interesting too. So what are we looking at here? A 42.5mm titanium case that's 12mm thick, and I can say that it's about 44mm long from 12 o'clock to 6 o'clock on the wrist. I'm a terrible person and I forgot to weigh the watch, my bad. I can tell you it's pretty light. My guess is around 100 grams, but I can't go back and weigh it because between the time I shot this video and now, my dad sold this watch. So let's take a moment and remember the Zenshin. Gone too soon, taken from us too early. But it is better to have worn and lost than never to have worn at all. Good luck, Zenshin. May your wrist time be plentiful. Anyway, the watch uses the B620 eco-drive movement. It has a sapphire crystal and 100 meters of water resistance. Citizen has this adorable water resistance chart on its website. Even though this watch is rated for 100 meters, it says that you should not go diving with it, which leads me to believe that 100 meters does not mean 100 meters. As for the price, it's always tough to say with a Citizen watch. It's officially listed on the Citizen website for $625, but then it's usually listed as being on sale. One day it was $468.75, the next day it was $435, then I've seen it elsewhere for as low as $420, so let's say $420, my dudes. You're seeing this watch on my 7-inch wrist, and maybe you can tell it's a big watch. It reminds me a little bit of an Audemars Piguet Royal Oak offshore diver. Obviously, the Citizen is better finished and far cooler, but it looks as chunky. The good news is that the Zenshin is really comfortable, and it's thin, it's light, which are not true of the offshore diver watches. The thickness and the weight are two of the reasons I sold my offshore almost immediately after buying it. Also, it wasn't an eco-drive watch. I should have done my research on that one first. And whether or not you can wear this watch is really up to you and your stylist. It's almost certainly going to feel good on any wrist between 6 inches and 8 inches. The question is, do you like how it looks on you? And for me, yes. I like how it looks on me, especially considering that I didn't pay for it. That always helps. And the look of the watch itself, it's pretty interesting. There's a lot going on here. Obviously, we have the integrated bracelet style, which is one of the reasons it wears, or at least it looks big. The bracelet is wider at the case than it would be on more traditionally shaped watches. And then there are some cool angles on the case that I think do a good job of matching the retro-futuristic vibe of the design. Is it from the 70s? Is it from the future? Is it from what people in the 70s thought the future would look like? Yes, that one. But that's just the case. Around the edge of the dial is the black tachymeter ring for all those things you think you're going to time with this watch but aren't actually going to time with this watch. Then there's the blue section of the dial with this amazing texture. It's like artisanal paper. And we've seen this from Citizen before. Citizen has been using this texture on some of its high-end quartz watches that are also light-powered. Those watches used to be called the Chronomaster watches, but now they're just called the Citizen. My guess is that the brand found a texture that looks cool and lets light in through the dial to charge the watch. And the sub-dials, you can pretty much tell that those are light panels. Running seconds at 6 o'clock, chronograph minutes at 9 o'clock, and then in the 3 o'clock sub-dial is a 24-hour hand for the main time. I'm not really sure why this is needed. It basically just shows you whether your current time is AM or PM. The first Rolex Explorer 2 kinda did this. It had a GMT hand and a non-rotating GMT bezel. The idea was that if you were in a cave, you might not know if it's AM or PM. I don't get spelunking vibes from this watch, but it's good to know that you can go deep with it, but charge it fully first. Actually, maybe cave diving with this watch is not a good idea. Although the good lume will help, and you can charge this watch with a flashlight, but it takes longer than charging it with sunlight. There's actually info about that on Citizen's website. Being so deep into watches in this hobby, I often overlook watches like this, affordable quartz watches. It might be their ubiquity or their price, or I don't really understand how electronics work either. But then when I spend time with a watch like this, everything else seems kind of silly. For $500, you can get a chronograph that never needs to be wound, that won't need a battery replacement, and is tougher than any mechanical watch that's 20 times the price or more. And yet, I continue to wear my expensive, delicate mechanical watches. But if a watch like this can scratch that itch for you, then teach me your ways, wise one. I want to be like you when I grow up.